Hi, it's Dawn from Dawn's Durkameen Gardening, Durkameen Chickens, Durkameen Small Scale Homesteading, Durkameen Large Scale Agriculture. I chat about it all. I love food. I love farming. Durkameen Politics and Religion too. We'll see what happens in the conversation today. So excited to be here. And today we have Trent from GreenEase, and Trent is a farmer and a producer and a farmer educationalist and all the things. And so welcome to the show today. Super excited to have you.
Thanks. Good to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. So I know that you have a greenhouse because when we've messaged back and forth, as soon as I see greenhouse, my attention just like perks up, and I saw that you have a greenhouse, but you also have another farm production business. So just tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's know who you are.
Yeah. Should I just launch into the whole history of the greenhouse and everything, the farm?
Yeah, whatever you want. I like
All right.
educate me on who you are. We just met about 5 minutes ago, and I appreciate your time being here. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, very good. So in the spring, the story of the greenhouse starts in the spring of 2017. Someone from our church built it, and they ran it through the summer, and it was a hydroponic lettuce and herb greenhouse. And they had some problems, and they ended up shutting it down late summer of 2017. In September of 2017, my dad bought it, and it came with no customers. There was really no knowledge base that came with it. And then, so he got it going, and he ran it, him and my mom and my sisters. I was an electrician at the time, and he ran it all the way up until 2021. Had the 90% customer drop off with the restaurant thing at COVID. Rebounded with that, on the retail side. And then in 2021, he had a ranch that he sold, and then I joined the company, and he bought the greenhouse that you've probably seen on YouTube, the 12,000 square foot hydroponic place, and that's where we're in now. We deliver to restaurants and grocery stores in southern Montana, northern Wyoming, a little bit of central Wyoming, and that's what we do. And then I kind of got into the whole. We can talk about this later, but the lean program, processes, and I ended up working myself out of a job. We hired a really talented guy, and so I had a lot of free time on my hands, which was very annoying. So I started this company, GreenEase, and we just, a lot of the stuff in the greenhouse we'd made ourselves, drop seeders, various things we had made ourselves. And so I was like, well, hey, there is a market for this. So I was really interested in manufacturing too. So it all worked out. So that's what I'm doing now.
Okay, cool. So in your greenhouse, you grow lettuce, and now you've got this other side business of just different hydroponic things that you need in a greenhouse. And so, that's fantastic to make life simpler. I've seen some of your videos, and I was like, ooh, I made my wish list. I was like, I wish I had that, and I wish I had that, and I wish I had that, because it would have made life so much easier. I've done it before where I've done seeding just, out of my hand, one seed at a time, but your little seeder looks amazing. So very cool. So you're entrepreneurial. You are working. You've got your greenhouse. You've got your product business. And so let's chat about the management side of it. Why did you work yourself out of a job? Like, tell me about that, because I've seen farmers work and work and work and work and work, and they have no time. And so to hear you say that you're farming full time and then you didn't have enough to do, so like an entrepreneur, tick 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 tactician, you came up with the next thing. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So there's a lot that goes into it. But, I'm so sorry, Don. My son was trying to come in the door, and
That's okay.
he was not supposed to do that.
Does your son need you?
Let me go check.
That's okay. He's your kid.
Hey friends, on Dawn's Dirt, we get real about growing food, farming, homesteading, living free, and digging into the stuff that actually matters. If you're loving the dirt we're dishing out, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on your favorite social media platforms. That's how we keep growing this community of badass, soil-covered, chicken-loving, freedom-chasing humans. Like and subscribe to me on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. Come be part of the movement.
All right. We're all good.
Okay, that's good. How old's your son?
He's 3.
Aw, that's cute.
Yeah.
That's sweet. Nice. I can remember when I had my operation, yeah, my girls would, they'd help, quote unquote, help me. And I'm like, ooh, and then I sometimes got babysitters for them. But yeah, it's great to have them. I grew up in the greenhouse industry. Here, we'll start with this story. I grew up in the greenhouse industry. So I grew up in, the greenhouse and, picking the cucumber. Well, I didn't do the work. My parents didn't really let me until I was a little older, or didn't make me until I was a little older. And so we would, I'd take all the leaves and make a little stew or, cut up some cucumbers, and we ate the cucumbers right out of the buckets. And, I grew up like that. And then my sisters grew up like that. And my children were in the greenhouse as well sometimes. And then sometimes they were with babysitters. So it's part of being a family run business. That's the cool part,
Yep.
I actually love that your son is there with you in your business. So very, very cool. Okay, so my question to you is, with your processes, so you've said that you kind of worked yourself out a job. You hired the right person, which makes a big difference. Hiring the right fit in a business makes some staff take stress off of you, and some staff add stress to you. I've had both in my career, and so you've got the right staff in place. You had extra time. How did you manage that as an entrepreneur and as a farmer?
Yeah, so I mean, all the work to hire, that good person that can come in and take your place, all the work happens before. So it's you have to lay the groundwork. And hopefully this isn't too buzzwordy, but there's like standard operating procedures, things like that. Those were huge. And so what they are is we use a software called Gimbadocs to make our standard operating procedures, but you can use anything. I've seen people use like slideshows. They'll take a picture, like let's do a good example. Let's say cleaning the filter on a pump, or seeding lettuce, whatever. But we'll go with the filter since we started with that. So you unplug the pump, then you unscrew the lid, then you take out the filter, you clean it out, you start it. Okay, so the way you do that on a standard operating procedure is let's just go with the Google Slides example. There's so many different ways to do this, but you can take a picture of the plug and say unplug the pump, and then you take a picture of the lid, unscrew the lid, and then and so forth. And it's just like a spider web. The positivity or the positive things that a standard operating procedure can bring, because as you're doing this, you're like, wait a minute, this is crazy. Like we just need, if we had another little thing here, like a shelf to put the filter on while I clean, or where's the lid go? I'm always putting the lid in the dirt while I'm cleaning the filter. We need and as you're taking pictures of this, you're like, this is craziness. And so you often find while you're making a standard operating procedure, you're making improvements to the process. And so now you have this standard operating procedure, you have a decent process, and now you can hand that off to somebody or not. But you have that baseline. And also what's beautiful about that is when there's multiple people in doing the same process, you can get 2 people together when you make that standard operating procedure. I'll just call them SOPs from now on. When you're making that SOP, and so maybe my dad does it this way and I do it this way, and so we can combine those and make just the best of both worlds and come up with a really good process. And then that's the baseline, because let's say it's a more complicated process and we're making changes to it. We're wanting to increase safety or increase quality, increase efficiency, speed, make the process simpler, whatever. Now we have this baseline, this agreed upon place. This is how we do it. And hopefully I'm not making this all sound too complex, because it's not. But now we can say, okay, this is how we do it. If we do it this way, we've proven it's safer, or it's more obvious that it's safer or faster. And so now you update the SOP, and now everyone in the team can be trained on the new standard, or you can just text them like, ours, we can just text them the link and like, hey, I think it's better to do it this way. Do you guys agree? Yeah. Okay, cool. So those were huge. And then, just random basic business things in general, we can get into that too, but I don't feel like I'm near as qualified to talk about those as some of the lean manufacturing or the SOP type things. Yeah.
I love that. It's like work smarter, not harder. And then going to the team and saying what's going to work best. I like that analogy of, you and your dad and what's going to work best. And I like the little analogy of the shelf, just figuring out what's going to make it go faster and more smoothly and more like safely. Like safety on farms is sometimes a big concern. I know that we had safety issues sometimes on my farm, and I was like, it was when my I had staff, and sometimes I'd catch them and they'd have the bucket of the bobcat, way up in the air, and then they'd be doing something underneath, and I'd be like, oh, like, what are we doing? So I probably should have had more SOPs on my farm. Probably would have helped a bit. But yeah, you're right. And so once you've got a procedure, then you also, this is my thought process too, then you know how much time it takes. So cleaning the filter, let's just go back to cleaning the filter. That takes it's a 10-minute job. But, someone else, if they're going to take a half an hour, well, it shouldn't take a half an hour, because if you follow the SOP, it's 10 minutes. And so you would tighten up your margins, right? Because every minute is $1, especially when you've hired people. And so you tighten up your procedure, and yeah, boom, there you go. You saved yourself 20 minutes if they followed your procedure.
Yeah, and one thing, like, some people immediately buck the SOP thing. They're like, oh, I would hate to work at a business like that, like where it's all just dictated from on high. And maybe that does sound like a bad place, but the culture around SOPs, it might need a little bit of help sometimes. But when you're in it, like in our company, at our greenhouse, I am often not the expert on the process. So, I'm going to one of the girls or one of the guys and being like, hey, how we should document this, and so, because we want to train this next person next month, like, help me out here, because I don't know what's going on. And so then we establish the baseline together, and or ideally multiple team members. And then when you have a structured environment that is not chaotic, creativity increases. I mean, it's just like, my hair's on fire. I don't know what's going on. Like, where is everybody? People, one person does it this way, the next person does it this way. Now we got overseeding, and that's all gone, and no one's asking me questions. Like, we harvested yesterday. So there's, 8 team members there, and I was there for about half an hour in the morning, and when we started, absolutely not, right? It would have been a 10-hour day. But I was, and I absolutely learned everything from other people. But when people ask you a question, write her down, put the answer where the question is, right? How do I print out the invoices for delivery tomorrow? Okay, there's an SOP right there on how to do it, right by the printer. Where's the printer paper? There's a label on where to get the printer paper. All these things. How do I log into the computer? There's an SOP for that. So, yeah, it's just when someone asks you a question, or when someone's talking to you and their voice goes up on the end, right? A question, where, why, how? Like, that's an opportunity for a great improvement.
I'll be honest with you. I'm hearing you. I'm feeling a little bit like, oh wow, I should have done this and I should have done that on my farm. Like that's brilliant stuff. And I knew on my farm that management was a problem. I knew that for many, 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 many years. Yeah, you're not wrong. I'm sitting here eating a little crow here and going, "You're not wrong. You're 100% correct." And those you went from an 8-hour day or a 10-hour day to an 8-hour day, which saved you 2 hours worth of labor, which is huge on a farm. I can remember my labor bill was a half million sometimes, and I was like, whoa, like that's insane, right? So
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
it was probably a 12-hour day, even more. I can remember invoicing customers at night, and now it's a 30-minute day. Like,
Mhm.
really, it's crazy. Yeah. And it's, that work, it's the hard thing that makes everything else easy. Making all those SOPs, all those labels, it feels like craziness. And it's a ton of work, but it's the hard thing that makes everything else easy. Just like, exercise, right? It's like choose your hard.
Absolutely. Well, and then it creates organization. I used to say that if everything had its place, if you knew that the knives were in this cup in this place or whatever it might be, the tool or whatever it is, you didn't have to run around the farm finding things because it was always right there. And so it's little things like that that add up, and it's the little things in business, the tick-tactician, this adds up, this adds up, this adds up. I used to say to my staff, actually, this is one thing I did say to my staff. I said, guys, think when you go out to the garden, I want you to bring everything with you because it's about a 10-minute walk out to where you're at, back to the greenhouse or back to the packing shed. So, make sure you have everything that you need. Make sure that you're not making the extra trip walking because every time you make that extra trip, it costs extra dollars. And if, 15 people do that in a day, it all adds up. And yeah, you're right. It's the standard operating procedures. So if you can tighten those pennies, nickels, and dimes down, you're going to have a more profitable business. So let's take this into so I love that management SOPs, but then also you sound like you have made changes in your greenhouse with your GreenEase business, that when you saw a problem, you solved it and you made something, and now you're turning around and you're selling those items to others. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, all great products, they come from the shop floor, they come from the greenhouse, or they come from the farm. So, yes, the drop seeder, there was no one making a drop seeder for the type of plug tray we used. So my cousin made one. The first examples are right over here. They're wooden, and they worked. But there came a time when we needed another one, and so we made an aluminum one with acrylic. It's really nice, and I was like, well, yeah, there's other people in my exact shoes that need this. So made a website, put it up on the website, and that was the first thing. Then there was we had a really big problem with we have a couple hundred orders a week, to restaurants and grocery stores, and we made so many mistakes. Someone would order 2 pounds of basil, they'd get one, or they wouldn't get any basil, or it would get delivered to the wrong spot, and et cetera, et cetera. And I finally was not sleeping. It came to a head. There was about 3 days where I didn't really sleep, and so that it was just like the clouds parted. I was like, oh, we need custom software. That's what we need. So we were able to afford to make that, which was a real blessing. And so we made it for ourselves, and then we made it available to everybody, which it's pretty specific software. So this isn't a pitch for the software, but that was huge for us. And so we were able to get a lot of other greenhouses, dairies, other small farms on board with that. And then that's when it really started taking off. And then that's kind of when we hired Douglas, and when it all kind of came together, and I started taking a step back from the greenhouse. But yeah, if someone listening to this podcast has a good idea, we work with other inventors, other farmers. We'll take your idea. We'll give you 5% right off the top. No funny accounting. You can log into our Shopify as a viewer, and and you don't need a patent. All we need is just like a prototype, a rough prototype made out of commonly available materials, and we'll take your product to market.
Wow. Okay, wow. You're just wowing my socks off here, dude. Um, because as a farmer, you have to be creative, right? You know this. You've got a farm. You have to be creative, and you're always coming up with different things to do. Like, how can I do this? How can I do this? How can I do this? How can I? And farmers are absolutely, you're right, the best inventors out of there because they're inventing things first of all on a budget because you're not getting rich farming sometimes, and so they're doing things creatively to solve problems on their farms. And so I love that farmers can go to you and say, hey, let's take this idea and now let's help other farmers. And it's called innovation and technology, really.
Yep.
Even something as simple as a little seeder, right? Like, I like the technology with less computers personally, but yeah, that's just the thing. Like it's figuring out and tweaking. It comes back to the SOP, tweaking it and figuring out what's going to go fastest. And in my defense, I kind of ragged on my farm a little bit here earlier, but in my defense, we came up with a lot of those little things too. Like we came up with little gadgets and gizmos and things like that to make things go faster, just to make things go better and smoother
Yeah.
and to be able to work more as a team and you're right, you have to work with your team, asking your teammates how do you do this and how do you do this and how can we make it the best for everyone? I don't know. I think that's great leadership skills.
Yeah, it's beautiful that you bring up culture like that because, like you mentioned, the knives. Before you mentioned the knives in the cup or the walking back and forth, like it takes a little bit of education for the team. Like hey, it's better it's obvious, but it's better for everybody if we put the knives back, and and then it kind of has to click. Everything kind of has to click, but walking back and forth. Hey, if we just walk back and forth all day, we'd go out of business. Nothing's happening when we're walking back and forth. So yeah, culture is behind everything that sustains that, right? Because now who's updating SOPs? It's probably not me, right?
No, you're
Yeah.
right. And that just comes back to that team effort because I know on my farm I was nothing without my team. And every member of that
100%.
team was like important, right? And so I had my first job in 20 years here not that long ago. Last summer after I sold my farm, took my first job in 20 years and I was at the one location and there was the janitor. So they just built this brand new big store and there was the janitor and she had never cleaned that store before and she's got a few little extra needs in life as we all have a few extra little things in life. And I watched that manager walk up to that poor girl and just rag on her and he made her cry and I get my hackles up then. I said, "Well, I can sweep the floor." And he said, "No, it's her job." And I just thought to myself, what a missed opportunity because the most important person on the team is probably that janitor. She keeps the floors clean, she
Yep.
keeps the bathrooms clean, and you empower as a leader, you empower and you lift up those underneath you and
Absolutely.
in leadership doing that, leading your team
Yep.
and coming up with the SOPs and doing things to the best of your abilities. And trust me, I've made mistakes in business. Like I think that sometimes you got to learn the hard way and I've learned the hard way on many things, but yeah, I think that's great. And you've had the hard lessons as well, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful story. Like, yeah, the story was terrible, but what you said about the missed opportunity. Yeah, yeah, we're doing a podcast now. Yeah, it's that the culture of the team is so important. The team is everything. I feel like as yeah, I'm as a leader, it's small time leader, but I on judgment day, I will have to answer for like my people's time. Like, did I waste their time at work? Like, did I make this a terrible place to work, or did it, or it, like when they're at work, are my people's faith growing? Like, I need to make sure that's happening.
Yeah. You're actually making me well up with tears. I don't know if you listened to episode 50 that I did, but it was the best business advice I ever had
I
I've ever
did.
gotten. And it was who owns it? The Lord owns it. And you know what?
Hmm.
I can honestly say that I've got some good moments in my business and I've had some bad moments in my business, but you know, you learn from them and I can see hindsight 2020 and now I can empower and teach people, you know, to do it maybe better than I did it. You know, some of my staff, they still appreciate me and like me, and some of them are like, oof, that Dawn. But, yeah, I got better over the years. I did learn the hard way several times, and I got better over the years. Um, yeah, so let's chat faith, because I love that. So you've mentioned faith several times. So how does faith play into your business?
It's super foundational. I yeah, you're gonna put me on the spot as far as tactically. Um, Honor God, like why do we do what we do? It's honor God, serve humbly, live lean. That's kind of the foundation somewhat. And yeah, just we kept it simple, 6 words. Um, as far as tactically, um, yeah, I that's rough. I mean, uh, we have a prayer at work every day. Um, yeah, I mean,
Good for you.
if someone would get mad at somebody else, that'd be a big deal. They would be getting a very quick sit down. Like
Yeah,
and not necessarily like attacking them like, hey, you shouldn't have gotten mad, because that's craziness. It's both sitting down. Bob, why do you have a problem with Mary? Okay, Mary, do you see why this is a problem with Bob? Mary, what's your problem with Bob? Bob, do you see why, that kind of thing. Like, that's one way I guess it would play out. I mean, that's probably pretty standard HR type stuff. Um, yeah, kind of on the spot here for more tactics, but you know, faith, it's how you relate. I mean, a lot of the gospel, when I read that, I'm just like, this is just like how to relate to other people, you know. So it's permeated about everything.
for sure. And I'm still learning these lessons. You know,
Me too.
hindsight, I can just tell you all my shit. Sorry, and I swear I love Jesus, but I have a potty mouth too sometimes. But I lost my temper sometimes on my farm. But looking back, like that was not cool, and it didn't inspire my team. It didn't empower my team. And so I guess if you're listening from that, don't do like I used to do, because that's not how and I learned those lessons over the years. I did stop doing that. I actually stopped losing my temper as much and started, you know, having better communication and things like that, because you're right. It didn't inspire my staff. It made them frustrated. You know, all those things. And so I guess maybe that's the lesson in it is I didn't do it great and I better do it better. And I can see hindsight 2020 how it can be done. Um but that's a process as you get to know the Lord, you know. He refines you in the fire and
Yeah.
learning the lessons, and I'm still being refined all the time. So
Well,
that's what
absolutely.
he
Yeah.
asks of
It's
us.
just failing
Yeah.
forward through life. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. Okay. So man, we talked about business, faith. Let's chat about family a little bit. So you are a second generation farm kid?
Well, yeah, at least. So my family originally comes from California, and we grew sweet potatoes there. And that was my dad was third generation, maybe fourth. I don't know. Long time, long time. I think back. I mean, we'd have came from Kansas in the Dust Bowl. I think so. Long time. Then my dad wanted to move somewhere with less regulations, less people, no wind. So we landed here in Wyoming, northern Wyoming, and there is no wind. I can vouch for that. And yeah, bought a ranch. And so we were there for a few years, and then he bought the greenhouse, and that's how we landed here. So yeah, farming, long time.
Okay, nice. And so in farming, like there's such a big thing in farming. Let's chat the business side of it a little bit more, because with farmers, and we've seen big farmers get bigger because they've had to, because like back in the day when my parents were doing a dozen long like cucumbers, a dozen long English was $7 per dozen. And I was talking to some big Ontario growers recently, and a dozen cucumbers even now, like 30 years later, is $6 a dozen. So farmers have had to be like creative tic tactician on how to make it all stretch. And so for myself, what I did was I cut out the warehouse eventually, and then I went directly to the grocery store. And then eventually I cut out the grocery store and I sold only at farmers markets so that I could get a little bit more off the meat off those bones. But yeah, so let's chat about the business side of it. Like how do you make your small, because you've got just a smaller greenhouse, and like, are you profitable? Like, is it even working? Like, how do you make a living for your family off of your farm?
Yeah. Well, it's extremely profitable. We keep about 48 to 50 cents on the dollar, and that's staying right here. So debt load pretty light as far as that goes. Um, so just relentless improvement is how we've got there, because I mean, of course you start out at break even. I mean, I think that's pretty standard for a small farm. And yeah, it's truly, I can't say, oh, it's just this one big thing, but it is truly tiny steps and tens of thousands of improvements by this point. We make improvements every day. There's a little tidbit of information in March of 2025. I was looking back at our sales from March of 2022, and in the same greenhouse square footage, and it's 3.22 times more in the same square footage. So it's just tiny improvements, just stacking and stacking and compounding and stacking. Yeah, I've kind of feel like I've got lost. Do you have any good points on any good questions on what I should drill down into?
No, I think that sounds amazing. Like, I just had a thought, you upped your business by 3% in a couple of years here.
300%.
Three, oh wow, 300%. So I
3x.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, wow. See, and that's the thing. It's just, I hear what you're saying, and I think this is the theme of this episode, is it's all the small, fine details. You have to detail this and detail that. And I think that's where the big growers and the big cattle producers and the big greenhouses and the big everybody, I think that's where that's the secret sauce. And so if you're listening to the episode today, the secret sauce is in saving on all the little details. If you can save a penny or a nickel or a dime on a small detail, when you add them all up in a big farm, it will add up to, 300% is what you did
Yeah.
better. So
Yeah.
that's
And
amazing.
it was mostly yield boosts, growth boosts. And yeah, that was
But again,
the main thing.
I've been a grower. You're not going to get better yields if you don't give them fertilizer. They're not going to get better yields. If you're not
Yeah.
going to water them, you're not going to get better yields. If you're not going to give them sunshine at the right time, or whatever the little detail is, and down to the detail, if you don't seed on the right day. I in the greenhouse we used to buy bugs in. Do you buy bugs in down there for
Yeah.
your greenhouse?
Oh, like beneficials?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So even a little detail like, oh, I'll wait till tomorrow morning to call that order in instead of just taking the 3 minutes and calling that order in today. Even a little detail like that can cost you on the back end with bug pressure. It's
Yeah.
all the little details and doing your work diligently, doing it effectively, doing it the way you need it to do, and that comes back to the SOP things. So great
Yep.
information for the listeners today is to just build an SOP, and even if you're on a small farm, would you even suggest this for a small family farm? Someone
Oh,
just doing.
absolutely. Absolutely. And even like before, like the step before an SOP is even just a checklist. Like I've so now I'm in manufacturing and in the greenhouse. And in the greenhouse, checklists are way more important than the SOP. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter how the filter gets changed, but it has to get cleaned, right? Otherwise, we got big problems. In manufacturing, like, the way something gets put together is extremely important. Like, the step 1, step 2, step 3, like, that better be followed. Otherwise we're going to have a big defect. So that's not as important in the greenhouse. So you could start with checklists. That's a great place to start because a checklist you can hand off to somebody. Absolutely. But, and if they're having questions, maybe you should look at an SOP, take it to the next level.
For sure. I'm going to actually apply all this back down to my little chicken operation that I had this year. So
Awesome.
I am just I'm just a one man band this right now, just starting the farm over again. And I had chickens. I had laying hens and I had meat chickens. And one small detail, I used to pick up my feed and I would get 20 bags of feed in a trip and I would bring it back to my place and I would put all those bags into a shed and I would load it at where I bought it and I would offload it into a shed by hand. And then I'd pull out bags and feed my chickens every day. And then I thought to myself later on in the summer, I'm like, why am I moving these bags so many times? And I don't have a great facility. I'm using what I have with the money I've got, right? Living within my means. And I thought, man, I've got this SUV. Why don't I just go once a week, pick up my feed, load up my SUV? And I didn't need my SUVs for my kids. I've got teenagers. They're all driving their own vehicles and we had other vehicles too. So I loaded up my SUV. So that is like my storage shelter for my feed. And I just had to load it on and load it off to my chickens. So I skipped
awesome.
one whole step of moving the bags again,
Yep.
And that's the thing. It saved me time. It saved me backache. It saved me all of it, right? And I got to a point.
The bags can break while they're getting moved. The shed might leak. I get so pumped about this because this is what I'm talking about, Dawn. Like you do that 10,000 times, your life's going to be so different. Like,
right?
I can vouch for this. Yep. Yeah,
for sure. And so even on a small operation like my own this year, like, cause I'm building back again, it's just taking those steps and being creative. And how can I save time on chores? Chores is a long process. Well, if I do this and I do this, and so it comes back to that working smarter, not harder, figuring out the ways to just make it most efficient and to save time and money and energy and, for the things that are really important, like your babies that are running into the room. Right. So that's where it's at. And so, yeah, absolutely. I'm really enjoying this podcast so far.
There's a beautiful framework for this, for improvements, and it is a book recommendation, and you can listen to it for free. So the 2-second lean play app, 2-second lean play. It's an app. Download it for free. You can't pay for anything if you wanted to. The book on there you want to listen to is 2-Second Lean by Paul Akers. It's available everywhere. You can even download the PDF for free online. But Dawn, exactly what you're talking about, like saving motion, saving time. And it was another thing that just clicked and like the clouds parted for me. It's like, this is what I've been looking for. And I hope everybody listens to it. It's free. It's like a 4.5-hour listen at one speed. So it's really short, really to the point. And it, only 2% unfortunately, of the people are going to like get it and apply it and go for it. But oh boy, that 2%, like you'll hear about them later,
It makes such a big difference, like, oh yeah, it's all the little things that add up. It's all the little details. For sure. A great recommendation. I actually, as you were saying that, I was like writing it down here because I'm like, oh, I got to listen to that one, because
it's a wonderful read.
Anything that saves you time and money on a farm. So a lot of my listeners are brand new into the farming industry, or they've just bought an acreage, or they've got a small farm, or even if they've got a bigger farm. What would you say to them if they wanted to get into farm to table business or farming business? What's your biggest recommendation to them? Like what would you say to yourself when you were brand new? If you could go back in time, because I'm sure you've learned lessons just like I've learned lessons. Let's take those lessons. What would you say to a brand new person?
Are you sitting on a farm or homestead that could be making you real money? Tired of guessing on how to market your products? I owned a 36,000 square foot greenhouse. I ran 2 farm to table stores. I had 30 people on payroll. I brought in $2.5 million in gross revenue in 2020, selling farm goods directly to customers. Now I teach farmers and homesteaders how to make money and save money off the land they already have. Whether you're selling eggs, beef, produce, baked goods, or anything in between, if you want to get into direct marketing and grow your sales, I'm the girl for you. Stop leaving money on the table and start putting it into your bank account. Join me at Dawn's Dirt Business Coaching and let's make your farm pay you back.
Hire Don's Dirt. Join the community.
I love it. I love it. Thank
Mentors,
you.
mentors are a massive cheat code. Big hack. Yeah, it's you've just got to get back up. Like there's so much failure, but you just gotta love it, get back up and keep going. Yeah. And if you love it, you will.
Yeah, that's entrepreneurship, really. Like
Yep.
I've had my farm and I've had some stores and things like that. I sold them off when I sold the farm too, just to kind of start fresh again. And you're right. That's being an entrepreneur and trying this and trying that and trying this and trying that. You're right. You just gotta, when you fail, you gotta get back up and try again the next day. And I can remember once in a while, I back to my whole temper thing. I struggle with my temper, and I can remember having days where, shoot, I lost my temper, but then I'd think to myself, tomorrow's a new day. And I would go and I would say, I'm sorry. And I would say, today's a new day. And I can remember doing that, right? So being humble enough to say like, today's a new day. Let's start fresh. Let's start over. And yeah, that's business though. Business 101. It's going to be hard. I promise you it's going to be hard. And, hopefully you can make less mistakes. And thank you for saying that. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if this will help anyone, but it helped me a lot when I realized this. So when I learned this, it really helped me out. It helped me understand myself, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like this, but you can envision that you start out like on top of the mountain, and I learned this from Alex Hormozy, by the way. You start out on top of this mountain, and it's like you're uninformed. It's uninformed optimism. It's a new venture. It's a new business. Let's go. All my friends are doing it. Like, it's awesome. And then, but you start going down. You start going down the mountain. And this is informed pessimism. You're starting to learn like what's bad, right? You're starting to, oh, wow, there's actually a lot of work. And then you get to the bottom. That's the valley of despair. And that's where most people bail. They bail and then to something else that's uninformed optimism. But you got to stick it out. You got to ride it, because then you start going up the mountain on the other side. Informed optimism. You start figuring out little hacks like, right? Oh, the way around this problem is to do this, and so on. And then you get up out of it. And of course you plateau and there's ups and downs, but that first, there's a big dip there. And I don't know how long that is. Maybe I'm still in it. I don't know. But I do know that, farming is easier than it used to be for us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I've often said, without the valleys, you don't have the mountains. Like you need both, and that's where you learn. I've learned the greatest lessons in my valleys, and maybe I've had some pretty crappy valleys, but that's where I've learned so much. And then I've had some great mountains too. Like I ran a very successful business for a very, very long time, and it was really cool. And yeah, valleys and mountains. You're right. And if you give up. If you just go down into the valley and then you stop, and then go down in the valley, you stop, like you're never going to get anywhere in business. It's the business owners and the entrepreneurs that keep going through and keep coming up the other side and fight up the other side. That's entrepreneurialism.
Yep.
That's, fighting for your business.
Sticking
That's
it out.
grinding and doing what it takes. And then you're right, like making all the little mistakes along the way. And then you get back to the next mountain. And then exactly like you, I'm an entrepreneur just like you. So when I had my farm, I thought, first I had my greenhouse and I thought, I'm going to grow a garden. And then I grew the garden and then I was like, I'm going to start a grocery store and another store. And, then I'm going to do a food truck frenzy and then I'm going to do a market and all the things, right? That's what entrepreneurship is you you not only start at the mountain and then go down and then get into the next one, but once you get to the next one, you're looking for the next, you want to go down that
Yep.
next hill again. And so like you've done, you've got your farm and now you've got your manufacturing business, and like who knows what's next on your plate, right? You never know what the Lord's going to ask of you. And so absolutely. Yeah, great business analogy.
Yeah. What do you think about this statement? Problems make us happy. What do you think about that? I can explain.
Problem.
It's something I've kind of been getting into.
Okay, so first I'm gonna mention my guess because I really want to hear this because this sounds like a good tidbit of information. So problems make you. So I used to thrive on problem solving and things and figuring it out and figuring it out. I used to honestly thrive at that when my staff would ask me questions and not questions like you said, like that would save us, not questions like that, but just when they came to me and asked things or whatever. Leading a team, I really thrived on that, but I cleaned someone else's house this morning, and I walked into that house, and I hadn't even cleaned my own toilet for 4 years because when I had my farm, I eventually hired someone to do that. And so eating humble pie now, I'm cleaning someone else's house. And I walked into that house today and I was like, thank you, Lord. Thank you for this lesson. I needed my ego to be in business. I find that sometimes your ego can get in the way. And that really was the case in my business for a while. And so I needed a dose of humble pie. And so I'm thankful for the problem of me having to clean a toilet again, because it's the lesson I'm learning in cleaning a toilet for someone else. It's servanthood and all those things. So that's
Yeah.
my guess. What's your answer?
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. You often have to find the why to be happy about, which is what you've done there. I was thinking a little more tactically, like when we have a problem at work, when let's say the romaine. Oh, right now I got a good one. The romaine, it's the classic winter greenhouse romaine problem. The top middle of the heart is starting to turn black, and we've had this problem before, but in the past it's like code red, right? Like, what are we gonna do? But now with our new mindset we're trying out, with the problems making us happy, I know that when we figure it out, which I think it's potassium deficiency. When we figure it out, one, I'm going to feel really good. Like, wow, that's cool, right? Like just dopamine drug addict, right? But then more like, okay, so root cause analysis. Why did the potassium get low? Okay, maybe let's say this wouldn't happen anymore, but let's just go this. The fertilizer got mixed improperly. So, okay, so why did that happen? Oh, the scale, the batteries died in the scale, so we used a different one. It's, and just getting to the root cause. And so then you fix that, and guess what? It's not going to happen again. Probably. So that's like, we're just improving, right? So when you get a problem, it's always an opportunity to improve because there's always a root cause, and you can almost always fix it. Unless, it involves like other people's choices, but that's kind of a different topic.
Well, and I was just thinking, let's dive into that a little bit. You know what I was thinking when you were talking about that? I was thinking like it's coming down to the root of the problem, and not just going and blaming something or blaming someone else or
Yeah.
blaming or shifting
Blame the
blame.
process, not the person.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. And so figuring out the why behind it. Why does someone do this? Why do they act this way? Why do they behave this way? Why did Dawn lose her temper in her packing shed once in a while? There's reasons why. It's not excusing my behavior, but sometimes there's reasons why. Why did the batteries die? Why did the scale? Why did this? Why did that? So
Mm-hmm.
it's figuring out the reasons why. There's so many layers, and once you can figure out and see past the emotional just blame game and getting to the roots of things. Why are they doing this, or why is this happening, or whatever? Then you really have the mindset shift to make a change,
Yeah.
tweak it, fix
That's,
it,
and
problem solve.
that's all back to culture, like we were talking about before, right? Like not having a blame culture, instead a stop culture. We stop and fix. And if you improve the person, They will improve the process, and the process will improve the product. Because we need to make the process the expert, not the person. So in a greenhouse, we have SOPs and we have tape, and it's clearly laid out. And when you walk up to a work cell, everything we need is right there, right? And that we're not questioning on which knife to use because it's obviously this one. And make that process the expert, not the person.
For sure. And then you're setting your staff up and your team up for like success, really. Like, and when it comes back to leadership, I'm just all fired up about this episode. So when it comes back to leadership, when you lift someone up, the biggest thing I've learned in leadership in the last many, many years is leaders empower their team. They lift them up. They go and they lift them up. How can they lift them up? Empower them. When you are empowering someone and when you're giving them like the confidence to do the job properly or whatever it might be, like that's just going to raise the whole culture of your entire team up, your entire operation up, which again is going to make your lettuce the best in the county or the best in the country. And it'll be a reflection of, your leadership.
Absolutely.
Really, servant leadership. Jesus was that, a servant leader. He
Mm-hmm.
when he washed his disciples' feet, that's how he led. And so absolutely.
Yeah. Jim Collins, he's from Boulder, Colorado. He has a lot of wonderful books. And one thing I learned from him is culture is strategy. Like you mentioned there, right? When you lift, just the simple act of lifting someone up, the ripple effects and the positive outcome that eventually comes out of your business because of that, it's a full-on strategy. And obviously we do it from faith reasons, right? Not financial reasons, but it all works together. It's one big, beautiful system. I sound like Donald Trump there.
Yeah, for sure. And as much as I've been a little Debbie Downer on my business, thinking about all my mistakes I made, that is one thing I did really try and encourage my team. That's something I learned over the years, and that's something I really feel like I did well at the end of my days on my farm with my team of 30 people. So, yeah. Okay, so just in closing here, can we hear a little bit more about your manufacturing business? I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. So tell our listeners, what do you do and where can we find you and your greenhouse as well? But just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the website is greenease.us. So right now you'll go on there, you'll find drop seeders. You'll find plug poppers. I don't know if you're familiar with the company Two Bad Cats.
No.
So they made plug poppers out of Vermont, and they just retired. So I bought their plug popper business. So yeah, when after you seed your tray with your awesome simple GreenEase drop seeder, and they've all germinated beautifully, you need to pop them out instead of doing one at a time with the Sharpie or whatever. You can just do them all at once. Low cost plug popper. There's a few hydroponic specific things. We have the world's best aeration system. It's just beautifully simple. Does the work of a nano bubbler. So there is the software on there as well.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? So the air bubbler, I just want to let the listeners know why you need an air bubbler. So you need air and you need oxygen to your roots. And so when I had my big lettuce pond, I instead of having stagnant water in there, because in hydroponics you don't want stagnant water, you want oxygen in your water, and so you put a bubbler in. So that's what your bubbler's for, right?
Yep. And then also why we made it. Once again, problems make us happy. August of 2024 was super rough for us. Like pythium hit us hard. And that pythium is what took out the greenhouse before Dad bought it. So it's a long story with pythium. But so we started treating it with hydrogen peroxide and bleach. We got rid of the pythium, trust me. But then you get a sterile system, which isn't ideal, but it was way better than the pythium was. So, and then I realized the through line between hydrogen peroxide and bleach is oxygen. And this is just me just reading the bleach bottle, right? And oh, there's oxy something in there. Oh, that's probably oxygen. Anyway, one thing led to the next. And and a friend recommended this air cone system, which is what we sell now. And he gets 5% right off the top because it was he brought it to us. But anyway, yeah, we inject pure oxygen into this cone, and the oxygen levels are extremely high because, well, you can't go too high. 18 milligrams a liter is the sweet spot. Too high and you'll burn your roots. But 18 milligrams a liter, you are killing pythium. Pythium root rot is it is, the word escapes me right now, anaerobic. It's anaerobic. It does not like the oxygen. So the oxygen it'll just knock it right out. And then you can take out your existing bubbler systems. So yeah, it's beautiful. And you can't get above, depending on your altitude, you can't get above 9 milligrams a liter of dissolved oxygen. That's 100% saturated. So you have to use pure oxygen and some way to dissolve it into the water to get above that and to actually kill the pythium. And it's this stuff's all so cheap. I'm a farmer and I'm not out here trying to price gouge. I love manufacturing.
Yeah, I love that. I do love helping farmers, and I love helping solving problems, right? Like, and I love too, like pythium. You're right; it's a root disease. My dad struggled with it. We struggled with it. We found creative ways around it. But I love that it's not a chemical. Like, it's just air, right? And so,
it's so cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and any more products that you have?
No, just once again, I'd like to shout out, like, we're honest. People love to work with us. And if someone has a good product idea, I'd love to hear about it. We'll absolutely develop it with you. And, yeah, we'd love to do business together.
Okay, I love it. I'm gonna lay in bed tonight now, dude, and I'm gonna be thinking about my farm ideas, my farm hacks, because like
Yeah,
every farmer has them. Every farmer has a farm
absolutely.
hack to make their farm better. So I
Yep.
love it, and it can go right across the board, not just greenhouses, but chicken farmers, dairy farmers, pig farmers, grain farmers, farmers, everybody farmers, right? So I love that,
Yep.
for sure. So if people can find you at GreenEase, and then you've got your
GreenEase.us.
GreenEase.us.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And we'll get in touch. So thanks so much for being on the show today. This was fun. I really enjoyed this conversation. I got a little embarrassed once in a while, but yeah, really good conversation. Appreciate your time, and thanks for being here on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, perfect.